Test. No.
Hello. Yes. Hello. There we go. When you hit the volume up button 10 times, you kind of get there. So, I'd like to welcome everybody to the House Committee on Science and Technology. Appreciate you joining us for the lunch today. Our goal is to have a lunch, a presentation, and a hearing on Senate Bill 275, which is a study committee resolution. With that, if it pleases, any questions of members of the committee before we get started with the presentation? Hearing none, Chair would like to recognize Ms. Heather Maxfield from the Technology Association of Georgia to make the presentation. Ms. Maxfield, welcome.
Afternoon. Is it working now? Okay, perfect. Afternoon. Well, I'm the Vice President of the Technology Association of Georgia. I've been there about 8 years, and part of the reason that we brought the following resolution is because we passed something in 2011, May 18, 2011.
Ms. Maxfield, would you be able to present from the table, or do you have your laptop with you that you need
I
to?
can just press this and start with the video and then move over.
Okay, that'd be great.
You want me to move the button?
This is fine. This is fine. I'll just go ahead and send this or show you guys this. Hopefully there's volume.
Oops. Still buffering, guys.
The projector just went off.
It's on. I can see the screen. It's still buffering, guys. So just give us a moment to get this going. Forgive me for that.
Mr. Chairman, I just this is what internet in South Georgia is like, rural parts of the state.
Go rural broadband. There we go.
Slide this 23 minutes south of the airport as well.
Okay.
Just to remind us that. And also in Dawson County.
Lord have mercy.
Turn on the computer audio. Computer. What else you need that? Hopefully.
It's not deploying.
Yeah, it's, I think.
Um, Representative Perkle, could you made a joke about rural broadband in South Georgia. Could you speak briefly while we're waiting to the? Could you push your button there for me?
Yes, sir.
2025. Could you speak to the mobile classroom issue that I think is there been progress made on giving access to kids on the way to and from school?
There has been. I have not been updated. What he's talking about is a mobile classroom that was sponsored and through a great a program by Google, and one of the things that they had as a pilot program is to, in giving back to communities, is to provide access to the internet to kids that would not otherwise have access. And so in one of my school systems, it's a very large county, and it is there's a mobile classroom. So some of these kids will get on the bus, and they will ride the bus for over an hour in the morning and over an hour in the evening when they come back from school. So some of the kids got an hour and 15, so they get on the bus at very, very, very early. It's really dark, and it's late when they get back. And a lot of them do not have access to the internet when they're at home. It's not like their parents will not provide it. It's not available. So there's just no availability of the internet. In some of the school systems, you'll see a large increase of students around the library and the city hall when they piggyback in order to get the internet. So one of the things that Google did is through a pilot program, established a mobile hotspot. I'm on the technology committee, but I don't know what it's called. But internet on this bus, and one of the provisions that we were looking at, and I apologize, Mr. Chairman, I've not followed up to see how well it has started. But the idea was to provide these kids who are on the school bus their captive audience for an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening. The pilot program was to provide a teacher to help guide the students in their homework in looking up the things that you look up for doing your schoolwork. So it's to provide a teacher on the bus and access to the internet on the bus, and it would be the only time that these kids would have access. Many of them have access, and so they're a captive audience, and you might as well spend that hour. You're going to spend it doing something. And the program through Google, which I do applaud, and thank you so much for this pilot program in one of my communities.
And the connection made here is Representative Perkle came up to a Google data center tour, 18 months, 2 years ago maybe?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And made the connection. And Google was looking for a place to pilot this and said, hey, Irwin County would be a great place to do it because all the kids in the county, a large county, they come to a single location for elementary school, middle school, high school. So there's logistically it's simple, they go to one place, but kids spend a lot of time on the bus to do it. And that was, the genesis of the pilot. So I think we're ready to go. If you can go ahead and run the presentation, then we'll recognize Ms. Maxfield to finish the presentation. Ms. Maxfield, it's really your decision. Okay. If you can make it, if you can sync it.
Georgia presents its annual report highlighting the achievements and challenges facing the state's technology community. Technology wages in Georgia continue to increase, adding $650 million to the state's economy. Wages were up 2.6%, signaling companies continue to find valuable talent and provide strong benefits to employees in the state. Its top 15 technology markets with over 290,000 private sector technology employees. Software.
I tell you what, Ms. Maxwell, we're going to take that as a sign that providentially we're being hindered from watching. If you could just kind of make the presentation and talk through some of your issues and share those with us, and then we'll move on to the consideration of the resolution. Ms. Maxwell, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Maxfield. I'm with the Technology Association of Georgia. I'm a vice president there over government relations and statewide activity. So you may see me within your districts. We have 5 different chapters, some in Savannah, Augusta, Middle Georgia, Columbus, and Athens. We represent about 35,000 different members across the state, 2,000 different companies, some of them that you've heard. I think you got our bags on your desk last week. They're some of our major supporters. I'm here to bring to you guys SR 275. 275 is a resolution setting up a study committee for innovation and emerging technologies. I want to say in 2011 we had a resolution that basically would study and set up a strategic plan for technology in the state of Georgia. It passed in May by the governor signing it, and we went to work and came up with a strategic plan. This right here is the plan that passed in 2011. Since then, what you have on your desk is the Innovate Georgia 2025 update. You'll see that we ended up, or have in the last 8 years, have passed or have supported some regulatory efforts within DOE or other administration buildings to fulfill what is in the strategic plan. Some of those things are, we passed Invest Georgia, which is a fund of funds, $100 million fund for startups. We have since appropriated money to Invest Georgia, so you'll see that that is something that has passed. We've also done some wonderful things as far as getting coding and programming in high schools. It's now a 4th year elective for math, science, or foreign language, and so students can do that. We also had the last mile appropriations for schools, and also a tax credit for post-production, production, and angel tax credits. So we've done a lot of great things, if you will. We are lacking a few things. Some are an SBIR matching. Some of our neighboring states have matching dollars for anything that's invested through the federal government through the SBIR program. We also have a lack thereof for seed capital match throughout the state, as far as if there's seed capital given to a startup. In other states, we have seen that they have matched those dollars. And those 2 programs actually bring entrepreneurs to the state in order to produce different startup companies. We also are lacking thereof the STEM education through the budget. So when I say that, we have one bill right now that's before you guys actually in the House, SB 108. Hopefully you will support it. The bill states that high schools through 2025 will offer coding and programming, computer science within their schools. So we are moving in that direction to complete that objective. But we also need appropriations to be able to do that. So within the budget, there's also a grants to fulfill the appropriations to the local school districts. The bill before you, or the resolution before you, basically would set up a 14-person commission to study not only what needs to be done to become a technology state, because we are a technology state. We're one of the top 15. You'll see every day a new company that's coming to the state of Georgia. This would actually say, okay, we are a tech state, we are recognized, but what can we do further to make us an innovative state in emerging technologies such as blockchain or health IT or cybersecurity? I think that's it for right now as far as what the bill does. I don't think we've talked about how many meetings there would be, but I do think that this is a worthwhile resolution to move us to the next level as far as making the state of Georgia the technology state of the East Coast.
Chair recognizes, I don't know who's got number 8. Number 8. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. How many students do you think this would encompass after the study's done? What are you guys determining that number through the study, or
have already an idea of how many students you want to be involved in this particular program?
Well, the resolution is basically to do a commission, so with the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Senate, and the House, so there's 14. We hope it impacts every student that crosses, within a school, high school, at some point.
You mentioned, I think 5 areas: Savannah, Columbus, Athens, and there was 2 more. Is that the main focus? Are you planning to go hours? I'm from Gwinnett, so I'm just.
Oh, yeah. No, so this actually would be a resolution for the whole state of Georgia. So though we have chapters in those areas, our main location is Metro Atlanta. So we have over 200 events a year in the Metro Atlanta area, and so we're across the state.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Okay, thank you. Number 7.
Thank you, Chairman. Since the presentation isn't working now, could you send it to us later?
Absolutely, for
And
sure.
also is this the one from 2011?
It is. So
Could you also send us a copy of that one?
absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. And when you see it, you'll see it dives further into what is required to actually finish or say that we've completed that objective. So, and some of them have like 2 to 5 different things.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Number 22.
That would be me. Actually, I believe this will be a question to you, Mr. Chairman. I have in front of me House Resolution 408 as opposed to Senate Resolution 275. Are we speaking to 275 or 408?
I think Representative Jones, Vice Chairman Jones might move that the language of this House resolution be inserted in the Senate resolution at the appropriate time. The differences are subtle. It's interesting, when it passed out of the Senate, they had less House members than they did senators on the panel, so it just seems a little.
So we put less senators on this than.
No, we're on day 37 or 8, wherever we are. It's let's be productive and get something done here.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure, because in here it looks like we are limited to 5 days unless some additional days are added in online.
It's conventional.
70. Okay, is
It's
that-
conventional on study committee resolutions to limit the days for
Okay.
per diem purposes, just so there's sort of a known impact.
Okay.
I
I
mean,
appreciate
we've
that.
got the ability to do things as a science and technology committee and give per diem days out of cycle. I mean, if something were to happen, the Senate weren't to act on this and this weren't to pass, we'd still do these things, but it'd be under the sort of the umbrella of this committee. There wouldn't be a formal commission established. You wouldn't have the non-governmental members involved. So there's value in doing this to bring more people to the table. But we could still, as a committee, convene this and do a very similar thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. And there may be other questions. I want to ask Ms. Maxfield, from the 2011 effort, what were and again, I say this in the spirit of, I know organizations often want to talk about, all the things we achieved, and those are more well known. What were some key performance indicators, measuring sticks we had in 2011 that what were they? And what are some things that we didn't accomplish, we might have fallen short of, that we want to continue the effort to kind of keep moving on? And what were some lessons learned?
I would say some of the key metrics were venture capital. That was one of them. So right now we're about 2% in venture capital coming to the state of Georgia. That keeps us well behind California. We measure it. The presentation that that I had up basically showed you where we measure throughout the nation as far as venture capital goes. We are above many, but we're not where we need to be as far as venture capital and growing businesses. So venture capital, and then we talk about talent.
Would you have a PowerPoint slide of that, or is it all in the video presentation?
It's in the video.
So when you say 2% venture capital means
That we are
a percentage of all the VC money across
Correct.
the country in every sector?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So California is getting above 50%, if you will.
Wow.
Yeah.
So California's basically, they're about 10% of the population, 10 or 12% of the population of the country, and they're getting 50% of the VC. Okay.
And then we measure talent. Like, how are we doing as far as talent goes? Because we have a talent shortage, excuse me, when it comes to some of our companies, and especially when you go into the niche practices, right? The PowerPoint or the presentation basically tells you we have about 290,000 IT workers in the state of Georgia. That was up, and we are still growing. I think when I started, we were probably about 260,000 in 2011. So we've grown a good bit since then, but we can always grow further as far as filling the we have a negative talent gap when it comes to our corporations. So the more workers we can produce, even better, right? We always say that if we could train certified coders and programmers in high schools, they would have immediate jobs if possible, even before they go to college.
So for the jobs we've got here in Georgia, we're a net importer of talent as opposed to exporter of talent, is what you're saying?
In some instances, yes, I would say. We are a net when it comes to a larger corporation, but you also have smaller companies that struggle to fill those positions. Typically, it takes about 6 months to be able to fill a position for a smaller company.
Yeah. On the venture capital side, I know Representative Jones has some expertise in this. Could you classify and I've listened to him, he's instructed me on a lot of this over the years. Could you speak to the nature of the venture capital? Is it more early investment versus later investment that tends to be the big mover and the secure of sort of the final location of a company? Could you speak to that? So where in the venture capital life cycle our money mostly is right now?
So unfortunately, the venture capital that we have is really a large one, like not one, but a couple of funds that have been given, larger funds, right? So you have this big pot of money, and I don't have the number, I could pull it up, but it's like 1 or 2 deals, right? And so it says 2%, but that's really 1 or 2 deals. It's not the hundreds of startups that are looking for funds to be able to ramp up and scale. I would say we do have a smaller group of angels and seed money, but it's not to where it needs to be quite honest with you. And in fact, if we go back, our angel tax credit has expired. So that might be something that we look into when it comes to the Innovation Study Committee.
Was that program successful, or were there some shortcomings that would need to change about it?
I think the marketing of it could be a lot better. It sits over in DOR, which is great, but it's not utilized to the extent that it really should be.
Okay. Do you recognize as Representative 25? Is that Representative Perkle? Yep, 25.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for this and for getting behind it. The state of Georgia has made a tremendous investment in technology in this great state. In technology and cybersecurity, and we will be at the table, and we do have a net job loss. But and thank you for including Mr. Chairman and those that did draft this bill, our educational partners. When you teach someone to code, so I learned many years ago of Pascal and Fortran. So those are like learning Latin. They're kind of dead languages now. No one knows those.
Representative Perkle?
Yes, sir.
My wife's a Latin teacher, and she says Latin is not dead, Latin is immortal. So.
Immortal. Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Chair, and that is true. But when you teach that skill, and my son now is a web designer. He's a programmer, and when I look at some of his programs, while I can't place the commas and semicolons, capital, you could, once you teach that skill, that's something that you have. And thank you for continue to press on this, because this is an area, when we teach someone to code, even when they're young, they have a skill that they can use for the rest of their life.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're certified, you can get a job within $45,000 a year, starting out.
Chair recognizes, I'm sorry, I'm going to call it by the number 29. Joe Scott.
Hi, good afternoon. I was just gonna ask you, do you know the reason why you're having the problems with the venture capital, and have y'all looked into the reason? I know you said marketing may be one of the areas, but is it anything else?
I mean,
The reason of why
traditionally,
we
sorry.
at the 2%.
I mean, traditionally, Georgia is more of a real estate type state when it comes to investments. So there's that. And we also have states outside of Georgia, our neighboring states like North Carolina and Florida, who are investing hundreds of millions of dollars a year into giving into a program, right? And we're right now doing about 10 million. So we are not to the same level as far as matching dollar for dollar when it comes to investments.
Isn't it true though, the real prize is not governmental dollars that are offered up, although that may be a component. The real prize is having a system where there's expertise and business and capability that private money comes in
Right.
and invests. That's really that's what we're trying to catalyze, because
Yeah.
the private market has billions and billions of dollars to invest.
And to that point, I would say that we are increasingly having that occur. There's a new venture fund called Engage. You're every day seeing different funds that are being created within the state of Georgia. So that is happening, whereas 8 years ago, that was not happening. It was pretty a dried up situation as far as venture capital goes. Since we have had a couple of unicorns, which are over $1 billion in exits, and I think that has drawn some attention to the state of Georgia as to we have an ecosystem in technology. Startups are actually, moving and expanding and scaling on a fast track, if you will. Have you all heard of the Atlanta Tech Village by chance? Have you been able to tour it and everything? There's hundreds of companies there that are being started on a daily basis. So
Would the committee like a field trip to the Atlanta Tech Village?
I could set that up.
All right, we'll do that. Ms. Maxwell, that's an assignment. Thank you.
It could be part of the Innovation Study Committee.
Okay, got some more questions. Number 8.
So I just wanted to follow up on a couple of things. On the venture capital part, you said right now you're about 2%. Where do you need to be with California having 50%? We're probably never going to get there.
Right.
But where do you guys need to be?
I mean, we would like to be past New York City and Boston.
And what they're
say.
at?
I would say they're in the teens without looking it up, but I would say 15% would be great.
And the other thing I want to
get started, I would say.
Yeah, and I know this has been one of the phrases here that this is a great place to do business. But this is a third area that I have actually spoken to folks that there is a talent gap in the state. And I think this is going to be a pressing issue for the state to address very soon. I spoke to the banking and the forestry, and they've had the same issue they're having. And I think that this is something that's going to become pretty critical for the state of Georgia. It might be a good place to do business, but if you don't have the talent, we're going to have a problem.
I would agree.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, one of the things that we have been pushing is an apprenticeship program. We feel that if there was a partnership between the USG or the tech schools, TCSG, and our association or other associations to set up apprenticeships, we would be able to fill some of those gaps, for sure.
Okay, I had some other questions that have disappeared. Anybody else have a question? Representative Scott.
So I can ask offline.
Thank you.
Anybody else? I want to ask a question to, I want to let Vice Chair Jones speak to this, because the question came up about venture capital, and I'd asked a question about sort of the where in the life cycle. We had a presentation a couple weeks ago to some business leaders that came to the Capitol, and Representative Jones spoke to the various sort of the life cycle of venture capital. Could you, from your perspective, what you've seen in Georgia relative to other sectors, and you're number 20. Thank you.
So thank you, Chairman Setzler. I share with Representative McLeod and Representative Scott the urgency, but my opinion would be this: after doing the number of deals I've done in private equity and venture capital, we have to first and foremost look at ourselves, to using your phrase, Ms. Maxfield, the ecosystem. Now, the ecosystem is built up of what? Everything that we can provide from an infrastructure standpoint, labor, et cetera, but ultimately it's driven by a culture. And for those of you who do business in the Silicon Valley, it's a culture of anything is possible. And that draws people. People want to be part of something that's bigger than them. They want to be part of the moonshot. They want to be part of tear down that wall. They want to be part of, getting the cure to cancer. And the fact of the matter is, when you're in the valley, as much as sometimes it drives me nuts, but when I'm there, I really do feel like I could jump over a building. And when you talk to the money that's out there, and this is billions under management, billions. They don't even start in the millions. They start in the billions. The deal flow that they're talking about is they want to be able to see that a geography can handle the life cycle. Meaning it's one thing to gestate them, but it's another thing to be able to nurture them, and it's another thing to be able to exit them and have them headquartered there. You think about that. When's the last time we have actually gestated, nurtured, had them basically, quote, grow up, may that be listing on the exchange or have an exit event, and they stay? Home Depot? No, I'm not, I don't mean to be funny about that, but you really start thinking about the life cycle there. I think the second thing is that when you talk to the West Coast banks, they're fundamentally surprised that we actually have talent. And please don't take that the wrong way, but there is a predisposition around the East Coast, and there's definitely a predisposition around Southeast. So there's this idea coming out of the West, and definitely out of New York, that let's just say our talent isn't as good as, quote, the other talent. So we have to be Avis in so many different ways. We try harder. And I think the goal should be not for us to be the number one place to do business, but rather the most innovative place to do business. You see, if we're the most innovative place to do business, we're creating actual barriers. Whereas being the number one place to do business, that can be measured in so many what I'll call commoditized ways. Being innovative means we've put up barriers to entry, and that's a good thing. So I think ultimately, when we start thinking about how we're going to get the PE and the VC firms to really consider us as a serious option, and not after the Valley, to the point that Ms. Maxfield made, it's New York, it's Austin, it's the Research Triangle, it's Chicago, even Nashville is getting more interest than we are. Nothing against those from Tennessee. So the fact of the matter is, we're a distant, like we can't even see first and second and third place. So for us, I think it really is going to take, and forgive me if Billy Payne's relatives are here, it's going to take a Billy Payne moment. You start thinking about what Mr. Payne did to get the Olympics here. Back in the early 90s, he started to really put together an effort to actually make Atlanta a world city. Because for so long, we were not. And it took someone to really be that point person and to be able to get us there. Well, I think here we're doing with the same thing. There's a lot of wanna, coulda, shouldas, but right now we suffer from a culture of no but. I don't know how many times, and I don't just mean under the dome. I'm out in the business theater here in Atlanta, and it's fundamentally different than being in the Valley or being in the Research Triangle or New York or Austin. Out there, I feel like anything is possible. At 51, I can jump over the moon. Here, I feel like anytime there's a conversation around what we could do, I got more cynics than I know what to do with. I'm telling you, these people in their 20s and their 30s who are looking to change the world, they want to go to a culture that's saying, come and change the world. We don't offer them that, just plain and simple. So they'll go change the world, all right, but not here. And we got to make them want to stay here. And then I do believe at that point, we do have smart people. We got a lot of universities. We have the tech system. I think we have an opportunity to build up that army that we need in order to be successful, but not until we move the culture. So I hope that wasn't too blunt.
No, but to your point, like California's motto is lose fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so they're used to like having 3 to 4 companies under their belt before there's a successful one. So
I know some folks are watching the clock. I know I've got a we are going to entertain a motion here in a moment. I will say that, part of this is, it's great as a spectator to see awesome, fun things happen, but again, big money's got to be smart money. We've got to create a circumstance where smart money will come here, where they can make a return. It's not just, about offering it up and seeing it disappear. So it's, that's the balance, the ability to take the moonshots and actually deliver on enough where they work. So with that, I think we're out of questions. I think Representative Marin wants to be recognized to make a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm asking to speak. I will entertain a motion to pass House Resolution 408.
Okay, well, I've got actually the.
It's a bill, Senate bill.
What's before us? I would entertain a motion to move Senate Resolution 275.
Okay, 275, yes. So that's a motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got a motion to do pass Senate Resolution 275. Do I have a second? Okay. Are there any amendments to the motion?
I have an amendment, Chairman Setzler.
Pause one moment. I do have a question. Number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just asking about the dates. I guess on lines 88 through 91. I guess the commission, I'm assuming that's the committee, we just have commission there instead, is going to submit its recommendations on December 31st, but the commission is abolished, the committee is abolished on December 1st. Does that matter? Should those dates be the same? And should the word commission be committee? Or is that fine with commission?
Thanks for the question. That's right. And what we'll do is, I'll take a, if you want to make a substitute motion to move what Vice Chairman Jones moved with your changes, we can vote on an amendment to the amendment. Or you can make a substitute motion with that included. I just from a procedural posture. So you're suggesting we change December 31st
to December 1st and change the word commission to committee. That's the only place I see commission.
Okay. Okay. Did council catch that? Okay. Any further text suggestions before we move on the gentleman's amendment? So, so Vice Chairman Jones, you want to resubmit your amendment then? I take your amendment would be in a posture to take, moving on the language of LC 363936 with the date changes and the word change suggested by the gentleman from Cobb.
Well, formed in a motion, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so moved. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion on the motion? Any opposition to the adoption of the Vice Chair's amendment? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's adopted. We've got before Senate Resolution 275 as amended by the Vice Chair. Any further discussion on the main motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of sending forward Senate Resolution 275 as amended to the Committee on Rules signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Ms.
Thank
Maxfield,
you.
any last words to share?
Just thank you very much. We appreciate it. Expanding technology in Georgia is good.
We stand adjourned.